For the last several weeks, we've been going through this sermon series called A Divine Autobiography. I'm calling it that because we're looking at the I am statements in the Gospel of John, where Jesus says something clear about himself. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world, and so on. Jesus telling us directly things about himself. Because if Christianity is anything, it must be, at the very least, believing the things Jesus said about himself. Today's scripture, we're going to get to the phrase where Jesus says, I am the door for the sheep. So let us pray. Lord God, we thank you for always revealing more of yourself to us through your word and scripture. May today be no exception. As we place ourselves under the authority of your word, would you do your will in our lives and stir up within us a greater love for you and a greater desire to do your will and to see your kingdom come. This we ask in Christ's name. Amen. So I'm reading from John chapter 10, verses 1 through 10. Jesus said, "Very truly I tell you, anyone who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs in by another way, is a thief and a bandit. The one who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the door for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will not follow a stranger, but they will run from him because they do not know the voice of strangers." Jesus used this figure of speech with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them. So again, Jesus said to them, "Very truly I tell you, I am the door for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the door. Whoever enters by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." Again, this is the word of the Lord.
Thank you, God.
I'm going to start today's sermon with some free pastoral advice. Basically, it just means I'm going to start with the usual kind of pastoral advice. When you are reading a passage in Scripture, it is always a good idea to read the bits just before and just after the passage that you are reading. Because so often in Scripture, we read one little passage and maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't, but when you go back and read what came before it, and read a little bit of what came after it, it gives you what we call context and helps you understand the main meaning of the passage that you are reading and trying to study. It sheds a great deal of light. And today's reading is a case in point. The previous chapter, right before where I'm picking up our passage, John chapter 9. In that chapter, Jesus healed a man who was born blind. The Jewish leaders were suspicious of this miracle, and so they didn't want Jesus getting any more popular or famous than he already was. So they brought the formerly blind man before them and questioned him, because they wanted him to either admit that the miracle was a fake, or at least deny the power and divinity of Jesus, so that his fame would not continue to grow. Well, the man did not give in to what they were hoping, so he left them disappointed. So what the Jewish leaders did was they excommunicated him from the synagogue, which is back then church. They kicked him out for life. They forced him out because he would not deny Jesus. That's where we're picking up this passage where Jesus says, "I am the door." Responding to the harsh treatment of the formerly blind man, Jesus tells the Jewish leaders a parable about how to properly tend sheep. The implication here is that the Jewish leaders who are supposed to be shepherding the flock of God's people have in fact become bad shepherds, who are more concerned for themselves than they are for the sheep. So Jesus begins this passage, this parable, he's talking to these Jewish leaders who've done a bad job. He begins by saying, anyone who does not enter the sheepfold by the door but climbs in by another way is a thief and a bandit. The one who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. So the Jewish leaders have just forced out this man who had been healed. And Jesus says that's how you can tell they are not legitimate shepherds. The rightful shepherd never has to use force. Only thieves and bandits have to force their way in through some other way. This real shepherd, the rightful shepherd of the sheep, always uses the door. In other words, Jesus never forces anyone. That's not how Jesus does his work and his ministry. It's not how he did it back then. It's not how he does it in our lives today. Jesus never forces his way in to our lives. Jesus does not convert people at gunpoint. Jesus is not your drill sergeant. He doesn't use force to get what he wants. Jesus doesn't come up. He's not the shepherd that reaches into the sheep pen and grabs them by the wool and drags them out and forces them to go out to pasture and go where he wants. Jesus simply opens the door, or the gatekeeper opens the door, and Jesus calls them by name. Jesus simply invites the sheep to follow him. As Jesus himself says in the book of Revelation, "Behold, I stand at the door and I knock." Jesus never forces his way in or out. He always invites his sheep to follow. And by obvious contrast, anyone who climbs into the sheepfold by another way is a thief and a bandit, as Jesus says. Sheep stealing is what we do whenever we try to take control of the sheep by force. And I say we because oftentimes it's not just someone from the outside, it's actually the other sheep in the sheep pen that want to control the rest of the sheep around them. Remember that this parable is a lesson for the Jewish leaders who, although they are leaders, they are also part of God's people. They are sheep within the sheepfold of God. They were just sort of specially promoted sheep that were supposed to watch over the other sheep, but they're all sheep. Sometimes it is us, the sheep, who want to control each other, to control the other sheep. Jesus calls that stealing. We steal sheep when we place unnecessary religious burdens on people. When we place moral regulations that people can't keep upon their backs. We steal sheep when we apply theological litmus tests to see who the real sheep are. And there's a reason that we actually call it sheep stealing when churches compete against each other in the same town for the local market share of Christians, forgetting that our mission is to go and find the lost, those that are not already in the sheepfold. When we compete for the sheep that are already there, we are stealing sheep from each other. Anytime we try to use people for our agenda, we are stealing sheep. We try to take control of the sheep, we are stealing from the shepherd. We are taking what does not belong to us. Now this brings up the question, what is our job as sheep, to stick with the metaphor, what is our job as sheep within the flock of God's people? How are we supposed to relate to one another, to the other sheep in the pen? This is where I think it becomes helpful to look at one of the overlooked characters in this parable, and it's that of the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper is only mentioned once. He's not the hero of this story. He's not the feature. But the gatekeeper's job in this story is simply to open the gate for the shepherd. No other job. It's that simple. The gatekeeper's job is only to open the gate when the shepherd arrives. It's not to control the sheep. It's not to manage their behavior or to clean them up when they get dirty. Their only job is to open the gate when the shepherd arrives so that the sheep can follow their shepherd. That is our job as sheep within the fold of God's people. We in the church are called to be gatekeepers. Our job is to clear the way for Jesus. I've often thought of gatekeeping, and I think we often do this, we think of gatekeeping as, which sheep are we going to let in and which sheep are we going to keep out. That's gatekeeping. We decide who we want in and who stays on the outside, but that's not the job of the gatekeeper in this story. The gatekeeper in this story doesn't do anything to the sheep. The gatekeeper's only job is to watch for the rightful shepherd, to protect the sheep from imposter shepherds, to make sure that when the rightful shepherd comes by, he can clear the way, so there is nothing between the sheep and their shepherd. That is the gatekeeper's job. That's our job. It's to make sure the shepherd can get to his sheep. Our job is to clear away any obstacle between Jesus and the people he came to save. Our job is to watch for Jesus and throw open the door when he arrives. To do nothing that would get in the way between someone and their relationship with Jesus Christ. That's our job. It's to open the door. It's to clear the way for people to follow Jesus. Now that job is simple, but it's not easy, because sometimes there is a lot to clear away between us and Jesus. We are really good at letting other people and other things come before Jesus in our lives. Sometimes we let our success in school or work come before Jesus. Sometimes, if we're honest, plain and simple money that we let come before Jesus. We want to make sure that we have enough for ourselves before we be as generous as we could be. Sometimes we let a certain political agenda or even our patriotism come before Jesus. And we certainly have all at times let relationships with the people we love most in this life come before Jesus. Clearing the way to follow Jesus can sometimes be a big cleanup job. Sometimes there's a lot in the way. Now, Jesus has some choice words for the things that come between us and him, the things that come before Jesus in our lives. He says, "All who came before me are thieves and bandits." Anything or anyone in your life that comes before Jesus is stealing you away from your shepherd. Now, as always, I want to make it clear that that doesn't mean these things in our lives are bad things. It doesn't mean relationships with people we love or success or hard work. None of those things are bad things in and of themselves. Jesus has no problem with those things until we ask them to be our Savior in his place. When we put something or someone before Jesus, we are saying we trust that person or that thing to save us more than we trust Jesus to save us. And when we ask something or someone other than Jesus to be our Savior, we are asking to be disappointed, because those other things, those other people cannot save us. We end up heartbroken, disappointed, lost. And that is not what Jesus wants for us. Jesus has no desire to see us disappointed, heartbroken, and lost. Jesus says, "I am the door. Whoever enters by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to kill and steal and destroy, but I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." Jesus does not want our lives to be slowly stolen away by all these other things that can easily come before Jesus without us even noticing that that's happened. Jesus doesn't want our lives to be taken away by imposter shepherds who promise a happiness they can never deliver. Jesus invites us, without force, invites us into wide open pastures of abundant life. That's what he says he wants for us. "I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." All these other things and these other people in our lives that are fine and they're good, but when we trust them to be our Savior, they suck the life out of us because they can't deliver. Jesus says, "I want you to come through me, because I am the door. I know how to lead you out to wide open pastures. I'm the shepherd who knows what you need, who knows where you need to go and where you need to be. Right now, 5 days from now, 5 years from now, I'm the one who knows." Jesus won't force you. The door is open to anyone willing to listen to his voice. May that be true for all of us this morning. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.